Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Can you? Don't know if I can hear you. Let me just check 1 second.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you.
Welcome back. I'm very happy to hear that the discussions are going on. Welcome to this session under the name of European Partnership and Mobility in Prison Education. As you all know in this audience, it's streamed out to the whole world at the same time as we are here. So welcome. We have this part of the program is for everyone who wants to learn about the opportunities in the EU system for European partnerships. So we have one representative from the Brussels office in EU Commission, and we have a representative for the national agency in Norway. So the first part is what has happened and some summarizing of the learnings from the different programs in Europe within adult education and maybe prison education. And then the second part with the Norwegian agency is focusing on the practical things. How do you do it? And what you do, and why, and when, and things like that. So it's divided in two parts. So first of all, our aim is to be inspirational and give a good platform to yourself take action towards the possibilities in Erasmus. So I'm happy to introduce the first speaker. She is I don't know where she sits. I think she is in Brussels. It doesn't mind, she is on a link. You're welcome, and you can introduce yourself. Yeah, I see you. You're welcome, and you can introduce yourself. The word is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Yes, indeed, I am in very sunny Brussels today. So, and also coming to the end of the working week, like everyone. But as you have introduced, let's maybe look together at what can the Erasmus Plus program do and what the program did in the previous programming period, and how the institutions active in the adult learning and providing different adult education and training and learning activities can benefit. And also, as you introduced, our colleague from the Norwegian agency will illustrate more about the practical arrangements, so what to do and how to do. And then also she will explain more in details the structure of the program. But just let me start maybe from the very short introduction that the Erasmus Plus program is the flagship program of the European Union dedicated for the education, training, and youth and sports. So various profiles of organizations can benefit, and most importantly, the participants can go abroad while spending the learning period there. And together with my colleagues here in Brussels, I work for the Erasmus Plus sector, in particular for the school education, vocational education, and training and adult education. So when we have a quick look that generally the adult learning is in a sense in the heart of the justice system, and can help the persons who found themselves in a disadvantaged positions, and they were inmates and they are, for example, getting to the end of their sentences, that the Erasmus Plus program can support the projects which focus on the activities that can help the inmates to found themselves in a new environment outside the places where they were. And the Erasmus Plus program focuses on the projects that also address the adult education in prisons. And various settings can be supported, like the coaching, psychological support, mentoring, and also reinforcement of the basic skills or low level of literacy. And for the programming period in the years 2014 and 2020, we had quite many projects that were focused on the adult education in prisons. And we had, and we still have actually, two main program strands, and my colleague will explain a bit more in details in some minutes. So first we have the mobility activities, so where the individuals go for the training period abroad. And we also have the strategic partnerships projects, which bring together several organizations working for the common purpose. And we also have the policy experimentation projects, which are with the higher ambitions and more targeted towards the ministries and national authorities. Also, the topic of the adult education in prisons is present not only in the adult education sector itself, but also in other sectors, in particular in youth and vocational education and training, and also in some sport activities. And they probably you also hear from your experience and the cooperation or the international networks. They are countries which are very popular and take the leading role in carrying out the quality projects on the adult education in prisons. So they are mostly from the organizations are mostly from Italy, France, Turkey, Romania, Norway, of course, United Kingdom, and Belgium and Germany. So there is a very good representation of these countries in the projects. And then when we looked at the profiles or types of the organizations which take up the role of the coordination of the projects. So they are mostly the adult education centers or non-governmental organizations, and also the regional or national services supporting the prison systems, also the prisons themselves, and other national bodies. So there is indeed a very good representation of various profiles of the organizations. And when we look at the profiles of the organizations that are very active in the cooperation projects, the strategic partnerships, here we have a dominant number of the non-governmental organizations or foundations. Also, adult education centers are also present, but the reason that the NGOs and foundations are the leading organizations is mostly due to the fact that there is a big interest for this type of the education amongst the NGOs, and also the special interest these organizations have in it. And when it comes to the money, so in the period of 2014 and 2020, for the mobility activity projects, Erasmus Plus program supported the projects for more than 2 million euros, focusing on the adult education in prisons. That was mostly the mobility of adult education staff. For example, job shadowings or teaching and training assignments or the structural courses. There was much bigger amount dedicated for the cooperation partnerships projects. We had more than 13 million spent to support the adult education in prison. So an average grant for the projects focusing on the mobility activities was more than 24,000 euros. And for the strategic partnership projects, it was nearly 200,000 euros. So generally taking into account the overall budget of the sector, the adult education sector had in the Erasmus Plus program in the previous programming period, generally the adult education in prisons represents a relatively good share of this budget. So maybe let's have a look on what kind of topics the organizations which coordinated the projects and jointly worked, what kind of topics they focused on. So generally it was, and also quite recurrent, it was the support and guidance of the education, prison education teachers and dedicated trainers to help them how to teach and address the low level of literacy and basic skills, and also how to reinforce the key competencies, notably IT. And also overall focus on the soft skills, and in particular self-control on stress and anxiety, and also how to boost the self-confidence of inmates. Also artistic education, human rights, and topics on anti-discrimination, also the role of the libraries or cultural communities, and the topics, the projects also focus on the validation of the non-formal and informal learning. Also active citizenships was taken up quite often, and focus on reintegration was also very important. So in the adult education in prisons projects, there is a really a long list of the topics the program supported, and it was also to boost the cultural competencies and also daily life skills, and also the aging problems, and or active aging, and also how to take care of the health. So the main target groups of the strategic partnerships projects were and still are, because the new program didn't change anything when it comes to the target groups, and actually it is now much more open. So the the teachers and trainers and learning facilitators could benefit from various settings. Also, the staff working in the prison centers, and also the staff working at the level of national, local, or regional authorities. Also, inmates could indirectly benefit from it as well, especially that the innovative learning and training methods could have been developed, and more appealing and engaging learning settings could have been also established. So, and also the target group when it comes to the inmates, it could be that also all profiles of persons who were and are, because the program still supported inmates. Mhm. The role of the strategic partnerships projects is primarily to develop the learning outcomes next to the exchange of good practices and building up the adult education organizations, and also next to the international networking. And all the strategic partnerships have to actually develop meaningful outputs. So and the outputs are available on the dedicated platform. My colleague will also speak about it later. But generally, the results of the strategic partnerships projects are a kind of long-term use and very advantageous and beneficial for example, for the adult education trainers or policy makers, or persons working in the ministry. So generally, the outputs include the research reports or studies themselves, and best practices reports, various settings of teaching materials or pedagogic guidance, surveys. There is also quite a lot of online tools or dedicated platforms, or even open learning resources, and various elements that can be accessible not only in the paper version but also online. And the projects are still running live websites, because in each strategic partnership project needed to have its own website. So when we continue to have a look about the outputs, they are the programs, for example, the training programs or modules, teaching training modules, or dedicated curricula, also the guidance or procedures how to validate and recognize the learning outcomes, and also the methodological toolkits or manuals. There is also quite a lot of material as regards the quality assurance and competences portfolio, especially for the adult educators and teachers and trainers. And because each actually strategic partnership project has a dedicated set of activities, so the projects carry out the activities amongst the cooperating organizations, and they work jointly in order to produce the outputs. But also during the project, they can already use the materials they are working on or they are developing, and also quite important activities also take place within the running of the project. So peer learning or mentoring guidelines on different topics, for example, for reintegration or how to find themselves outside the prison centers. Also dedicated policy recommendations, the material for the cultural activities or the motivation strategy or motivation techniques, strategies, and also various reports or projects newsletters. So there is a long set of materials, very useful and very interesting content-wise, and the persons working in adult education in prisons and also the organizations active in this domain can really benefit already from the available resources, outputs, and also can be a sort of inspiration on what they can work if they apply for a new Erasmus Plus grant. And also it is important within the Erasmus Plus projects, because the label of the flagship program doesn't come from anywhere. It is actually a kind of marketing and also spreading the positive words. So the projects need to have the dissemination activities, and generally it is very important that the organizations coordinating the projects or participating in the projects, they all do that. For example, for the cooperation partnerships project, there is a necessity to organize the multiplier events for the local, regional, national, or European level. And it's important that they network, that they also discuss, they have a constructive dialogue with the ministry or the local or regional authorities, that they present to the target groups dedicated training and courses, and that also they produce the newsletters, and they have websites and organize various webinars. So also the online communication is also very important, and as we know, the outreach might be much bigger. Yes. Mhm. And when we speak about the projects within so-called key action free, so policy experimentation, so each year in the previous programming period, the program supported projects which were dedicated to the adult education in prisons. So it was in 2015, 16, and 2017. And the project's materials are also available at the dedicated platform, and they can provide tailored guidance and descriptions of the innovative teaching and training settings. When we come to the last 2 years of the Erasmus Plus program for the policy experimentation projects, they focus, for example, on the career counseling guidelines for the staff working in the criminal correctional justice systems. Also, yeah, that was the most dominant topic. And for the 2020, it was the parenting aspects, also media literacy and social inclusion. And now I would like to hear, or actually we would like to hear from you, and if it's possible for you to go to the mentimeter.com. Yeah, and I will just also now switch the to show the website. Yes, so it will be the. So yes, so please go to the website menti.com and type the code 59406203, and we have a very interesting question for you. What benefits do organizations who are active in the prison education, adult education in prison, can derive from the international cooperation? Yes, so, and because I cannot hear actually and see anyone, so I would like to ask the person from the from the moderation team to confirm that that it is clear for our audience and they can access that.
Thank you, Margaret. I think it's very clear, isn't it? I think people are accessing it now.
Excellent,
As you
so
talk.
let's wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yes, inspiration, experience and good practices, resources, motivation. Motivation is actually an excellent answer. I like it very much because this is actually when the organizations and the people working in the organizations and doing an excellent job, when they find the motivation. So that's excellent. Also, insight to common problems we have in Europe, learning new skills, support, strengthening and support to continue working with developing education with goal of active citizens, excellent cooperation to share experiences and find solutions to challenges. Yes, excellent networking, ideas, new ideas. New collaborations, excellent. Common standards in a better to be implemented all over, yes. Networker, motivation, belonging, yes, always learn something from others. So I think that all those answers are actually really excellent insight, input, and in a sense it confirms that the idea and the primary goal of the Erasmus Plus program is really in line with the expectations and the needs of the organizations and the individual working behind. So that is really excellent, and that might serve also as a good inspiration for possible Erasmus Plus projects in future, and I warmly encourage all the organizations, all the audience to make the most of it. So that would be all from my part. Thank you very much. And now Maren will describe the practicalities of the Erasmus Plus program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. So did you hear the clapping?
Yes, thank you very much.
Very good.
It's very kind.
Thank you very much. Excellent summarize and introduction to the next part, which will be the how to do, I think. Yes. Maren, it's your turn. Maren Malgård is in Brussels. Maren came during the night from the west coast of Norway by train, so she's well awake to talk physically. So she is here.
Håller den nå? Can you hear me?
You're on, Maren. The stage is yours. She is from the national agency. Well, you can introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Don't know how to attach this. I've never used one of these before. That looks all right. Will it be possible to put my presentation up on the screen? Excellent. I don't know how to move on to the next slide. How do I do that? Thank you very much. Okay, my name is Maren Evensen. I am working for the Norwegian Directorate for Higher Education and Skills, which is one of the national agencies for Erasmus Plus in Norway, but it is the national agency that will be relevant for the prison education sector. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the practical stuff around Erasmus Plus, starting off then with just a quick introduction to the current program period. And moving on then to the main possibilities for you to apply to, which involves mobility and partnerships. Then I'm going to go into some of the details about how you apply and finishing off with some advice for your application. Yeah, so it's jumping forward now. Yeah, I don't think this one is working, but should I direct it that way? Thank you. Okay. I think so. Okay, yeah, now it's working. So, Erasmus Plus, the way it is organized is for a 7-year period. So, Gosha from the European Commission was talking about the results and experiences from the previous program period, from 2020 to 2014 to 2020, and now we are currently in the program period lasting from 2021 to 2027. And the program is managed by European Commission and also with the help of national agencies in all the participating countries. So, like I was saying, I'm from the Norwegian National Agency. There we go. Before starting off properly, I just want to refer to what we call our Bible, the Erasmus Plus Program Guide. This is a large document. I've embedded a link to it here in my presentation, but you can find it very easily if you Google Erasmus Plus Program Guide. And everything that I will be talking about today, you can find more information and more details about it in the program guide. So this is what we always refer to. And also, even though it's the same program, the same rules for all the participating countries, because the sectors are organized a little bit differently in the different countries, then I would always advise you to ask your contact person in your national agency for guidance along the way, because there may be some different practices or good to knows that would be best to ask your national agency about. Of course, I'll be able to answer some of your questions here today, but in general, we would like to refer you to the national agency of your country. And again, it's very easy to find online if you Google national agencies Erasmus Plus. There's a website on the European Commission's site with the contact information for the various national agencies. Oh, So, Erasmus Plus is the, I was thinking maybe if I stand a little bit like this, then I don't have to use my papers. Erasmus Plus is the EU's program to support education, training, youth, and culture and sport in Europe, and it offers mobility and cooperation opportunities in all education sectors. I've put a map on all the participating countries on my slide. As you can see, any organization established in an EU member state or in a third country associated to the program can apply to Erasmus+. So the third country associated to the program includes the countries in the European Economic Area and also candidate countries and potential candidates. But because I know there are some of you here today who are not colored in on this map, I just want to also make a note of that organizations from other countries may participate in some of the available project formats as partners or associated partners. That depends on the type of project, but just to let you know that there may be a possibility here as well. But then you would have to sort of link up with a participating or an organization from a participating country. Like I was saying, Erasmus Plus is for all education sectors, including prison education. But in Erasmus Plus, the education sector is split into 6 different parts. And my understanding is that prison education is generally referred into the adult education sector. At least in Norway, that's how we do it. But just to let you know that perhaps for some of you, it could be also relevant to apply to the vocational educational training sector. But you don't have to worry about this, which sector to apply to just yet, because it's the same opportunities within the different sectors. And in general, I do believe that most countries would refer the prison education into the adult education sector. So, in terms of the focus for potential projects, we talk about priorities in Erasmus+. You're here today in the European Prison Education Association. You're clearly interested in European cooperation, so I'm confident if you have a project idea, it would be possible to find a relevant priority for your project idea. I've here listed the horizontal priorities, which means that these are the focuses that are across all sectors: inclusion and diversity, environment and fight against climate change, digital transformation, and participation in democratic life. But there are also sector-specific priorities, so you can also find another more specific focus for your projects. Again, these are listed in the program guide for Erasmus+. Then I'm going to move on to the opportunities that you have to apply for grants within Erasmus+. This is how Erasmus Plus in the current program period is structured. Like Osher was referring to, you have Key Action 1, which is mobility, Key Action 2, partnerships, and Key Action 3, policy development. And I'm going to be focusing on mobility and partnerships in this presentation because that's what we manage in the national agencies, and also I think it's what's most relevant for you guys. And we are aware that there may be some a culture of Erasmus Plus language, so what's a key action? But don't stress out too much about this, because it's actually not that complicated. Key Action 1, like I was saying, it's about mobility, supporting individuals spending a learning period abroad in a hosting institution in some sort of way. And Key Action 2 is a little bit broader, about cooperation, so supporting the development of organizations through the exchange of good practices and the creation of networks. So it could include mobility, but a bit of a larger scope around it. And now moving on to the possibilities within Key Action 1. Then you have 2 opportunities to apply for grants. The first one is short-term mobility projects, and the second one is the Erasmus accreditation. So, short-term mobility projects, this is what we generally refer to as the best choice for organizations trying Erasmus Plus for the first time, or for those who only wish to organize a limited number of activities. It's fairly straightforward. What you can do is sort of send, for instance, your staff to courses, job shadowing, or teaching and training assignments in another country in a hosting institution. And you can use the grant to cover travel costs, course fees, but also administrative support. These are just some examples of what you can do. And it says here the project needs to last between 6 and 18 months. That doesn't mean that one mobility is going to last that long, but within that time period, then you can send 30 different mobilities from your institution to another one abroad, so that you can have several mobility activities in this type of action. And the next application deadline for short-term mobility projects is in spring 2024, at least in Norway. I know that it may be a possibility in some countries that they open up for 2 rounds every year, so you can check with your national agencies if they have another application round already in October. But I do believe that most national agencies operate with 1 round every year in spring 2024 is the next one. And then to the second possibility within mobility projects is called Erasmus accreditation. And that is sort of a membership card for mobility activities in Erasmus+. So if you apply 1 year and you're successful, then you are guaranteed access to funding every year for the rest of the program period. So it says here the next application deadline is 19th October 2023. So if you apply and you are successful, then you can have funding for mobility activities until the end of the program period, which is in 2027. But you can apply again next year as well, and it's still going to be until 2027. And this, as you can tell, is a little bit of a larger scale. The previous possibility is if you have one idea and this is sort of what you want to do, you can try it out. And here, for Erasmus Plus accreditation, you need to have an Erasmus plan that needs to last at least 2 years. So you need to have an idea of what you want to do, have a strategic idea behind this, this sort of activity. And also, if you think this sounds a little bit complicated and you're not ready to apply yet yourself, it's still possible to still participate. For instance, you can join a consortia. I forgot to mention that on the previous slide, that you can apply for an accreditation either as an institution yourself, or for instance, if your constituency or your county governor has applied for accreditation, they can sort of make this action available for their underlying organizations. So if, for instance, your county has applied for an accreditation, you can become part of their consortium. Or you can talk to someone here on this conference who's interested in learning from you, and they can apply for an Erasmus grant to visit your institution, and then you don't have to be part of that administrative side of it. Moving on to the second key action on partnerships, we also have 2 different actions: small-scale partnerships and cooperation partnerships. So, small-scale partnerships, sort of the same with short-term mobility action, is what we advise you to start off with if you haven't done this sort of thing before. But again, it's a little bit of a larger scope than just a simple mobility activity. Here you need to have a project. So you need to have a goal, you have several activities, and then it needs to lead to an expected outcome. Of course, you can't know in advance if you're successful, but you need to have a goal and something that you want to achieve or produce or do together. And these activities, they can also include mobility activities, but they can also be something else. And it could be developing workshops, learning modules, or courses, visiting partners, but it could also include project management costs. It says program here, it should be project management costs. So, yeah. And like I was saying, this action is sort of with a focus on newcomers or less experienced organizations compared to the next type of partnership. What's particular to this partnership programs is that you apply for a lump sum of money. So in small-scale partnerships, you apply for either 30,000 or 60,000 euros. And this needs to be distributed among the partners in the project or in the partnership. And the partnership needs to consist of a minimum of 2 organizations from 2 different participating countries in Erasmus+. So you can find one colleague here today from a different Erasmus+ participating country, and you can form a small-scale partnership together if you have a project idea that you want to develop together. This sort of project can last between 6 and 24 months, and what's particular for this kind of partnership is that you can apply twice every year. At least that's what we operate with in Norway. So the next application deadline is in October, 4th of October, but then there will be another round again in spring 2024. So the second type of partnerships is called cooperation partnerships, and this is an action that's a little bit larger, and therefore we recommend it for organizations who may be a bit more experienced with this type of grant schemes. And as you can see, the lump sum that you apply for is also larger. It's either 120,000 or 250,000 or 400,000 euros. And in this type of partnership, you need to have a minimum of 3 organizations from 3 different Erasmus+ participating countries in the partnership. And I do know that in cooperation partnerships, this is where it is possible to sort of link up with another partner from a non-participating Erasmus+ country. But there are some rules on how this works. So yeah, I would definitely read up on that in the Erasmus+ guide before moving on to deciding on that, but know that there is a possibility there. And cooperation partnerships, they need to last between 12 and 36 months, so they're also a little bit longer than the small-scale partnerships. And here, there's only one application deadline every year. Again, that's in Norway. Maybe your national agency has 2 rounds, but in Norway, we operate with 1 round, and the next one will be in spring 2024. Then I'm going to move on to some of the practical bits of how to apply. Here you can see the Erasmus+ application platform. And what you need to do here, if you haven't been involved in Erasmus+ before, is to register yourself. So you need to create an EU login for you as an individual working at your institution. And then you need to register your organization and get an organization ID. And then you can have several users being linked to your organization. And again, your partner organizations need to do the same. And then you click on opportunities and you select the correct call. That means the correct action. So either short-term mobility projects or small-scale partnerships, for instance, but then also the correct sector. And that's why I mentioned that early on. You don't need to decide on that straight away, but it's very important that you apply to the correct sector. Then you complete the application form. We do know that sometimes it's a little bit complicated. I'm going to give you some advice afterwards for your application process, but do ask your national agency for guidance. That this is what we're here for. And also the deadlines, the application deadlines are absolute. We don't have any control over that. So if you're too late, you need to wait until the next round to apply again. And after the deadlines, your applications are being evaluated, and then there's an outcome which is hopefully successful. Yeah, I'm going to finish off now with some advice for your application. One of the things that a lot of organizations struggle with is how to find a partner So this is your opportunity here today. Speak to your colleagues. If you have an idea or if you've spoken to someone you would like to learn more from, this is the perfect opportunity to form a potential partnership. But there are other possibilities as well. For instance, I just want to direct your attention to the EPEA platform, which is an online platform for adult learning in Europe, where you can register and post on the forum that you have a specific idea and you're looking for partners. So there's other opportunities as well. Some general advice for your application process. Start early. It's easy to say, but we've all been there, that when it's closing in on the deadline, that's when you sort of start off. I would always advise you to start early because it is a little bit complicated. Perhaps you want to ask your national agency for help, and then a few days go before they get back to you, and then, start early, start asking questions, and then you develop your ideas, and then, that's easier for everyone. Read the Erasmus Plus program guide that I referred to earlier. It's a big document, but you have all the information there. You don't need to read everything. Find out, this is the sort of action that I'm interested in learning more about. Read on that. Ask your national agency for help. I've emphasized this throughout my presentation, but really, we are here to help you. And also, answer the questions in the application form. This is obvious, but maybe there are 2 questions in the same text box, and then a lot of people only focus on the first bit, and then they just sort of forget the second question. Answer every question in the application form. And also, think about language. There will be someone evaluating your applications. We don't have enough money to grant every application that we want to. So keep in mind that you will be scored on your applications. So help the evaluators to understand what are you trying to say, what do you want to do, and why. And don't make it more complicated than necessary. I'm going to demonstrate this point with a quote. This is not taken from an application, it's just to demonstrate. Sometimes one is forced to consider the possibility that affairs are being conducted in a manner which, all things being considered and making all possible allowances, is, not to put too fine a point on it, perhaps not entirely straightforward. And this sounds very fancy, formal language, looks very good, but what does it really mean? You could perhaps just say, you're lying. Use simple language. Like I said, this is not taken from an application, but it's just to demonstrate that sometimes it's much easier to say what you want to say in simple words. It's much easier to actually understand your project ideas that way. And I'm going now to finish off to just referring to 4 different criteria that's useful to keep in mind, both when forming your project ideas, but also when writing your application. And these criteria are not always the same or weighed the same in the different actions, but they are always good to keep in mind. So that's why I've put them up here. So the first one, relevance. When you're forming your project, why are you doing this? What are you trying to solve? Is there a challenge or a problem that you want to address? Put this in your application. How is this project going to be useful for your organization and your target group? And can you link it perhaps to a national, regional, or local policy or some other strategic document that is important to your organization? Secondly, project design. You get a long way if you think about having a clear link between your goals, the activities that you want to do in your project, and the expected result, what you hope to achieve. Sometimes these 3 are a bit difficult to sort of link together, so if you have that in mind when forming your application, it's much easier to get a good score and actually receive a grant. And also remember to include all that practical, obvious information, but show the evaluators that you have thought this through. What are the preparations? What's the budget? Prove that this is value for money. You've thought about how you're going to spend this money well. And also, every project needs to address the environmental and digital aspect of the project. So for some countries, it's easier than others, for instance, to travel green, but it's to consider these aspects. That's important, and whether there are some actions that you can take to make your project more eco-friendly or include a digital aspect. Thirdly, partners. Say something about who you are cooperating with and why. And just to make a point of it, the right team members aren't always the ones you normally cooperate with. Of course, there are many good reasons to form a partnership with someone that you know or that you've known for long and want to learn more from, or you want to develop something with because you've spoken about this for a long time. There may be good reasons for that, absolutely. But sometimes you may have more to learn from others that you haven't cooperated with before. So keep that in mind as well when looking for partners. And also in your applications, include that you have a plan for how you will cooperate and communicate throughout the project period. And finally, impact and dissemination. Your applications need to include information about what you hope to achieve. And a good advice here is to think about how can you tell if the project has been successful. Sometimes it may sound obvious, but sometimes it's very difficult to say, but how are you going to measure this? It doesn't need to be quantitatively, but that you have some sort of idea of how you can tell whether you've achieved what you hope to, or not, or partially. Yeah, and also then to include some information about how you will use the results in your everyday life, at work, obviously, but also a plan for dissemination, how to spread the results to other organizations. Yeah. So I'm going to finish off by just referring again to the Erasmus program guide. You can easily find this online, and here you can find all the information and more that I've spoken about today. And again, I want to emphasize that you should contact your national agency if you have any further questions. Like I said, the rules are the same, but practices are different in different countries, and your sector is also very diverse. So there may be something that another national agency emphasizes more than another because it is more relevant there. So definitely contact your national agency and use them for guidance in your application process, but also during your project period. That was everything from me. Thank you for your attention. I hope this wasn't too much. And then I think it's going to be more interesting now listening a little bit to some project examples from some of your colleagues here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maren. You got it to sound a bit easy and accessible. I hope for the audience it did like that for me. We have a little surprise for you, but not for the audience. It's a bag of straffekaffe, and you get a cup of, which is called straffekaffekopp, and kransekake, which I don't know what's in English.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Do you want this back?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we go through a little session from a practitioner who has tried out some of what Maren has talked about. And then I think we have 5 minutes on the end. If there are any questions, Maren is here, and Henriette is the practitioner. She has, I've said, 4 minutes, maybe it's 5. Okay, Henriette, Arvesko. She's at Færder Upper Secondary, which is just over the sea, over the ocean. No, you can see it, the Færder videregående. The word is yours.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Men han starter den.
Can you hear me?
Skru på. Jo, den er på. Sånn. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. My name is Henriette, as Paul said, Henriette Arveskau. I'm from this city in Norway. I'm working in Sem prison, is nearby Tønsberg, which is a high security prison with 62 male inmates, mostly in custody. I'm a teacher, coordinator, and I also have an education as a social worker, which I use in my work as well. And I'm the chair of FOCAL, which is the Norwegian branch of EPEA. So that's me. So today I'm going to talk about my experience during an Erasmus Plus project. It all started in 2019 when a colleague and we decided to apply for an Erasmus project from the county governor in Vestland, which is, can I call it, a kind of accredited actor for an Erasmus Plus project. We applied for a project to Lithuania, and we did that because on that time we had a lot of Lithuanian inmates in the prison. And the project was based on job shadowing for staff, also staff mobility, and the topic was culture understanding and education. From Sem prison, we traveled, I can change this. Yeah, I only have the one picture. It's from Kaunas, and yeah, it's from the trip. We traveled 3 teachers, 2 prison officers, and 1 work officer. But one of the officers had Lithuanian background and mastered the language, which we felt was crucial for us to get the right information. We found the project relevant and exciting, exciting in order to understand the Lithuanian culture and get to know our colleagues from the correctional service in a better way. When we returned from that Erasmus Plus project, we decided to apply for a larger project that lasted for 2 years, and we will complete it this year in December. This project also had a focus on culture understanding and education. And it has been a prerequisite that we have traveled both teachers and officers. We have learned new knowledge about the Lithuanian culture, training in prison, and adult education. We are just about to test the possibilities of providing Lithuanian prisoners with Lithuanian education over the internet, which is an exciting project that we hope to have the opportunity to try out properly. In this project, we cooperate with Kaunas Adult and Training Center. That's us. Another major effect of the Erasmus project is the opportunity it gives us, the opportunity it gives those of us who work in different professions with the same inmates. We get a closer relationship and understanding of each other's working day. We have experienced that the lines between teachers and prison staff is shortened. It has made our working days easier at the same time as it benefits the inmate that we cooperate in a better way. In other words, the Erasmus project we have had are perceived as a win-win situation. We have also previously had another project funded by the county governor, and we traveled teacher and officer, and we had the same experience on that trip. So, in summary, I must say that we have increased cooperation across professions after our project. And I'm sure we will apply for a new Erasmus project, but just, I think we have to wait a couple of years. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henriette. We have a surprise for you too.
You have a surprise for me.
Yes, but it is a bit late.
That's okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? There's some things I think we have to explain, because Henriette referred to my office and what role we have. And can you explain that, Maren? Because I'm a bit uncertain of what we do. But in my head, we are doing the bureaucratic heavy work, and schools like Henriette and other persons in Norway has a much easier way to get access to some of the Erasmus-funded projects. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned within the Erasmus accreditation possibilities, the possibility of being a consortia and applying for support through a consortia. So then you have one, the reason why I didn't go more into detail about this is because if you are newcomers, then perhaps that's not, if you don't know about this coordinator, then it's difficult to go in that direction. But if you know that there is an organization that is accredited as a consortia, then they can sort of be responsible for being the coordinator for a consortia because you're addressing the same problems, or they are doing it on behalf of their underlying organizations. So it could be either addressing the same problems or being connected organizationally. So like you were saying, Paul, you are then doing this sort of administrative work, and then other underlying organizations which you find are addressing the same challenges can apply to you to sort of, then you distribute the grants that you have available every year because you are accredited.
Yes.
Yeah, does that make sense?
And we take that role because in Norway we are the coordinating agency for prison education in prisons in Norway. So, and we are bureaucrats and we like that sort of work. And we don't like to travel, so we let other people travel. No, well. Are there any questions? No. Then thank you very much for a very good session. I'm going to say something.
I have something about Switzerland and being not a partner of...
You're welcome. You can explain that, Thomas.
Yes. So...
not the black spot on the map, but the white spot.
Oh, it was grayish.
It was grey.
So, no, we are, unfortunately, at the moment, we have no agreement with the European Union, so that that Switzerland has the status of a third world country in regarding KA2 projects, so we can only be associated partners. But our national agency behaves like we would be part of it. And so if someone is interested for a job shadowing with Switzerland, then please, there are the Swiss teachers, or you contact me and we may have a job shadowing together, mutual visit for some days in your country and Switzerland. That's possible because then the costs will be paid by Switzerland. And yeah, so that's like we can contribute to this professional exchange at the moment.
That was an invitation to the rest of you. Thank you, Thomas. We are getting close to lunch, and the rest of the day is at different workshops. So the next time we meet, all of us, is here at 7 o'clock. And if you have downloaded the program starting on Monday, Tuesday, we have had different wordings on the event at 7 o'clock. So I think the last wording is not the last dinner, but the final dinner, I think. It has been formal dinner. I think during the first preliminary program this spring was formal dinner. What is a formal dinner? I think it started last century. And the wording formal dinner has just been reprinted without us thinking very much about formal dinners. But when we get the questions, we asked, is it a formal dinner, Ruth? Yeah, it is a formal dinner. But when you write formal dinner in a program, there are some consequences. And maybe the most important consequence is clothing. You can have clothes, yes, and you can choose yourselves. We don't decide anything. It's very as you like. Yeah, I read the program this winter, so I'm going to have a suit and a shirt for the first time. But do whatever you want. Yeah. So you're welcome. It starts at 7, but it starts with some things, I think. But certainly it will start with a glass of bubbling something. And then there is a set dinner. It starts at 7:30. Welcome. Yeah. Sorry? Thank you very much. I told Ruth to remind me that the second workshop with Gabriella, which originally was yellow, green, it is turned into this room. So not the green room, not Christina, because that is a little room. So there are so many people wanting to hear that workshop or joining that workshop. So we moved it to this room. The other one is still main stage, which is the blue one there. Yeah, I think that's, and tomorrow it's plenary sessions all day until lunch, and it's a final lunch, yes, the last lunch tomorrow. Farewell lunch, it's called. Thank you very much. See you then later.